Hello, my name is Bev and a big welcome to this week's Sheldon Road Church Sunday Supplement. It's great that you could join us as we continue our Advent series about worship in the waiting. This week Corin is looking at hope-filled expectation, so let's get going.
When the Lord brought back his exiles to Jerusalem, it was like a dream. We were filled with laughter and we sang for joy, and the other nations said, "What amazing things the Lord has done for them." Yes, the Lord has done amazing things for us. What joy! Restore our fortunes, Lord, as streams renew the desert. Those who plant in tears will harvest with shouts of joy. They weep as they go to plant their seed, but they sing as they return with the harvest.
What kind of greatness can this be that chose to be made small, exchanging untold majesty for a world so pitiful, that God should come as one of us? I'll never understand. The more I hear the story told, the more amazed I am.
Oh, what else can I do but kneel and worship you and come just as I am? My whole life an offering, the one in whom we live and move, his swaddling cloth lies bound. The voice that cried, "Let there be light," asleep without a sound. The one who strolled among the stars and called each one by name, lies helpless in a mother's arms and must learn to walk again. Oh, what else can I do but kneel and worship you and come just as I am? My whole life an offering,
Our theme for Advent this week is hope-filled expectation. And I'm going to read from Matthew chapter 11, verses 2 onwards. When John heard in prison what Christ was doing, he sent his disciples to ask him, "Are you the one who was to come, or should we expect someone else?" Jesus replied, "Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cured, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is preached to the poor. Blessed is the man who does not fall away on account of me." As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. "What did you go out into the desert to see? A reed swayed by the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear fine clothes are in king's palaces. Then what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, 'I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you.' I tell you the truth, among those born of women there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist, yet he who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he." I looked up hope in the dictionary, and there were two definitions of it, one from a sort of human sense and one from a biblical sense. The first one said that it was a sort of combination of expectation and desire. And I suppose we'd see that in times when we say things like, "I hope the weather's good for your barbecue on Saturday," or "I hope that you get well soon." And sometimes the expectation weighs a bit heavier, like, for example, when I stayed with my aunt and I told her I'd laid the table for breakfast, and she said to me, "I hope you've used the tablecloth, Corinne." So there's that side of it, but there's also the side of biblical hope, which was defined as having a trust, that trust in God that's sort of underpinning all our other hopes and dreams that perhaps we have. Of course, the problem is that sometimes those expectations, those hopes, don't materialise in quite the way we were expecting them to. We can be disappointed in what happens in the outcome, or we can be surprised with what happens. That barbecue, it might tip with rain that day. We might find that the person we hoped would get better soon doesn't. And I hope you'd smile at this, but yes, Auntie Audrey, I am using a tablecloth. Sometimes we wonder what on earth is going on with life, with God, where he is in a situation. Because for the life of us, we can't see what's happening. It doesn't seem to make sense, what we see going on around us. The thing is, if you think about it, and this sounds really philosophical, you can't have hope unless you have uncertainty. If we didn't have uncertainty, there'd be no need for hope, for either an expectation mixed with desire or for a trust in God. You know, at this time of year, I hear quite a few phrases that, in a way, in my work as a therapist, I sometimes have to sort of pick up the pieces from the impact that they have on people's lives, or can do. One of them is when people look at children and they say, "I hope you've been behaving yourself, because otherwise Father Christmas won't be bringing you any presents." The other one is the thing adults tend to say, something like, "Oh, you deserve to have a really good break," or "Oh, go on, you deserve that drink." Or even, in certain situations, "Oh, this is awful. What have they done to deserve this to happen at that time of year?" The thing is, those phrases are about conditions, about putting conditions on us. And God doesn't actually do conditional love. He does unconditional love. No matter who we are, what we are, what we're doing, he loves us just the same. And that's referred to a little bit in that passage that we heard today. Jesus says that we are greater even than the great John the Baptist. Just think about poor John. There he is. He's been actually working his socks off for Jesus, telling people about him, doing all that stuff in the desert. And there he finds himself now in prison because of the spite of somebody else. He must have been wondering, well, what's going on here? Why am I in this place? Notice that Jesus sent him a message back. Not that sort of said, it's okay, John, yeah, I'm here, I'll come and fix them, I'll come and sort them out. He actually sent a message back to say, look for the signs. Here are the signs that show this is me, that God is at work. And actually, after the disciples have turned away and gone back to see John, Jesus actually starts to, if you like, big up John to the crowd. He tells them, he challenges them, but he tells them about how great John is. Sometimes perhaps we don't look for the signs, or we're so tied up in what's going on in our lives that we're almost unable to see the signs of God at work in some of the pretty grim or even pretty exciting situations we find ourselves in. I had, some years ago now, a sort of phase in life where, although there was that underpinning trust in God being alongside me, I did begin to think, well, what on earth is going on here? My husband and I had been told we'd never have children, or it was very unlikely we'd have children. And then I found that I was pregnant and we had a lovely baby girl. And the doctor said to us, oh, don't pin your hopes on anything because this is like a miracle. We don't think you'll like to have any more. I then found myself pregnant again, but then miscarried him. So you're thinking, oh, hang on a minute. One hand, something lovely happens, then something lovely happens, but it's gone away. I then found myself pregnant again. And a few months into the pregnancy, contracted a virus and ended up finding myself just before Christmas at the hospital for them taking a scan because they said, well, it looks like you might be losing this baby. But actually, I didn't. And once my baby's been born, it feels like everything in the garden's lovely, hunky-dory. And then my son was 7 months old and I was diagnosed with cancer. And the doctors told me I had probably a 50-50 chance of whether I'd survive or not. What's going on there? It feels like life's a total roller coaster. And looking at it from a logical sense, it didn't seem to make sense. What on earth was God playing at? You know, it's interesting because in that time, though, looking back, probably more than at the time, at the time I felt a sense of peace. But since that time, I've heard from people all sorts of things, how, strangely enough, my situation had an impact on their lives and things that happened, and how just off-the-ball comments I might have made or somebody else did around my situation had really made an impact on their lives. Now, I'm not trying to be naive or naff enough to sort of say, oh, it's all right, whatever you're going through, but God's working something lovely out in it. But the thing is, we don't see the signs. We don't know what's going on, that God is at work in spite of what we see. And do you know what? Sometimes the ultimate happens. I remember I was on chemo and I was driving past a lamppost and it had a sign on it. You know, you sometimes see these signs, so-and-so's birthday, you know, happy birthday. And it said, happy 50th birthday. At the time I was in my late 30s and I said to God, oh, Lord, will I make 50? And quick as a flash, there was like a little quiet voice in my head that said, Corinne, you'll make eternity. Now, that wasn't the answer I was really looking for, I can assure you, but I had to have a little chuckle because actually that was probably the only answer I needed at that time. And we have that hope, we have that trust that as we walk with God, things may be horrendous at times, but we have that constant hope. And so, as we think about Advent and Jesus coming in our lives, let's hang on to not just our human hope, our dreams for the future and day by day. Let's hang on to that hope we have in God through Jesus. We never know what God will be doing in our lives, because he's not only a God of hope, he's a God of surprises, and he's a God who loves us unconditionally. God bless.
Oh, lift up your eyes. I love you, precious child. Do you know the way my heart longs for you? Oh, my beautiful child. I'd breathe 100,000 flowers into life just to make you smile. Do you remember how I held your hand and I taught you to walk? Then I watched you run away, chasing a dream that drifts out of reach, while I whisper and wait. Oh, lift up your eyes. I love you, precious child. Have you felt the way my heart burns for you, while you're slowly turning numb? I'm ready to be everything you need, and yet you never come. And I would drop my crown and chase you down from heaven to the hay. Child, lift your eyes to rest a little higher in the smile of amazing grace. Lift up your eyes. I love you, precious child. Lift up your eyes. I love you, precious child.
We all have our longings, faithful Lord, and we bring them to you as part of our worship. Abraham and Sarah spent 25 years longing for their promised land. Moses waited 40 years, longing for his people to enter the promised land. David endured 15 years, longing to take his rightful place as king. Esther waited, fasting and praying, for 3 days before she went before the king. We all have our longings, faithful Lord, and we bring them to you as part of our worship. Israel waited 600 years between exile and the coming of the longed for Messiah. Hebrews 11:40 tells us, "These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect." We all have our longings, faithful Lord, and we bring them to you as part of our worship. Today, some of us are waiting for answers to prayer. Some long for relationships to be mended or to begin. Some ache for a world of justice. where all are treated fairly. Some are hungry for meaning, purpose, and joy in their lives. We all have our longings, faithful Lord, and we bring them to you as part of our worship. Why don't we now take a moment of silence to bring our personal longings before God? We all have our longings, faithful Lord, and we bring them to you as part of our worship. Amen.
Thanks for your company today. We'd love you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just press the subscribe button. There's no cost. And if you press the bell symbol, you'll get notifications when a new video is available. If you've enjoyed the video, we'd appreciate you pressing the thumbs up symbol too. Thank you. We've come to the end of this week's Sunday Supplement. We're really pleased you could join us and hope that you've enjoyed it too. Please join us again next week when Paul is looking at the theme of awestruck anticipation. Have a good week. Goodbye.